And can you tell me a little bit about the work that Trócaire does?
Yeah, so Trócaire is the official overseas development agency of the Catholic Church, and we were established in 1973 by the Irish bishops. And when we were established, we were given a dual mandate, which really means two jobs. The first job is focused on our overseas work, where we work in 20 countries, from Honduras in Latin America to Sierra Leone in West Africa to Myanmar in Asia. And our work focuses on four key areas in those regions, from women's empowerment, so working with men and women to challenge gender inequalities, I should say. Then also around food and resource rights, so ensuring that people have the opportunity to have a sustainable livelihood, and particularly challenging climate change as well, which is having a devastating impact on many of the regions we work in. And then we also work around justice and human rights. So that work is really about bringing people closer to their government, and ensuring that people can hold their government to account and can access their basic human rights. And also the last thing that we do overseas, well, we do many things, but it's also around humanitarian response, so providing aid and emergency response after humanitarian disaster and helping people rebuild their lives as well. And then the work we do in Ireland then is focused around development education, and really about educating the Irish public about the root causes of poverty and injustice, so people can make connections between their own lives and the lives of people elsewhere in the world. And also, that people are informed, active Irish citizens who can take action on global justice. So for example, like at the moment, all you hear in the media is about Trump and Brexit and so forth, and yet there's 25 million people in Eastern Africa in need of absolutely dire emergency support, due to drought and starvation. So nobody's talking about that story. So that's a role that we play in development education, is to really talk about these issues and try and educate the public around them.
And how important has partnership working been to Trócaire, say, overseas and in Ireland?
Well, partnership is part of Trócaire's DNA. I've been working for Trócaire now for 10 years, and I'd say there's two reasons why I work for Trócaire and what gives me great pride in our work. One is our dual mandate, which I just mentioned, and the other thing is our partnership approach to development. So what Trócaire does in terms of our approach to development, as opposed to having a one-size-fits-all model or sending a large Irish task force to the countries we work in, what we do is we partner with local community organisations, and these community organisations are obviously made up of Indigenous people who understand the culture, understand the issues that people face, and what we do is we provide expertise and technical advice, and we build their capacity to bring people closer to their governments and the decisions that affect them. And I suppose that's based on this idea of subsidiarity, where if a decision is being made that affects communities, you want people to be involved in that decision-making process, not the government making a decision that affects somebody down the line, making sure that you bring both together. So partnership, as I said, is absolutely at the heart of Trócaire's work overseas, and then in Ireland as well. In the development education sector, we work very closely with a number of organisations, including networks like IDEA and also educational institutions. And really it's about coming together to think of practical ways that we can really bring these global justice issues to life for children, young people, and educators in Ireland. And also, I suppose, around advocacy work and lobbying the likes of the formal and non-formal education systems to make sure that when children are learning or young people are learning, they have the opportunity in school or in a youth group to actually explore issues around human development, around people reaching their full potential and to become active Irish and global citizens.
And is there any particular partnership over the years that stands out for you as being a successful one, and why was that?
So I suppose one that really stands out is we have a partnership with the Centre for Human Rights and Citizenship Education that's based in St Patrick's College in Dublin City University. And we formed this partnership, I think it was around 2009. And what we did at the start of this partnership was we did a piece of research to look at how very small children, so early years, the children from 3 to 6, engage in global justice issues. You know, because there's an assumption that small children may not have the capacity to explore, you know, issues like climate change, you know, and like gender and so forth. So this research was really groundbreaking at the time because it, you know, it uncovered that actually children have a huge ability to empathise, particularly around basic needs, and also that children, very small children, hold stereotypes, particularly around Africa, that they get from maybe the home or from the television as well. You know, and just kind of to build our confidence as well, just to you know, to acknowledge and work around the fact that, you know, children don't always need black and white answers. You know, often very small children, it's one thing or the other, you know, and development isn't like that, and justice issues are complex. So having the confidence as well to explore that complexity with very small children. So that partnership has evolved over the years. You know, we've done a number of other projects together, and a project that we're working on at the moment is actually now 8 years later, going back to that research that we did in early years, to see what the impact has been on that research, because we produced a resource for the development education sector, and for early years educators, based on the research, you know. And one innovation that we've done for that as well is we've set up a children's research advisory group. So we have a group of 8-year-olds who are advising the research to 3 to 6-year-olds. So it's really exciting, you know. But because we've had that partnership for a while, we're able to explore these ideas and, you know, trial new innovations like the Children's Research Advisory Group. And also one thing that happened in 2013 was we decided to apply for a European Commission and Development Education and Awareness Raising funding together, and we were successful in that. Yeah.
Overall, what would you say are the wider benefits to working in partnership and collaboration?
Well, I think working in partnership, you know, it's a real opportunity to explore new ideas, you know, to kind of partner with other people's expertise, and that fusion of your experiences and their experience can really strengthen your program. You know, just in terms of building your capacity to have greater impact. You know, you mightn't have all the resources yourself, but if you partner with another organisation, you know, you can potentially double your resources as well. Yeah, so there's lots of different benefits.
And have you found that over the years there are particular barriers to working in partnership or collaboration?
Yeah, I suppose there are different barriers. Sometimes, like, culture can be a barrier, you know, like trying to kind of work within a different frame, a different outlook, a different way of viewing the world to how you work, you know. But that can be overcome with time, you know. And then also geographical boundaries. You know, a number of our partners, obviously, in our overseas work, they're all overseas now. We have offices in country to support that. But with our European Commission funding, some of the partners are in Austria or the Czech Republic or whatever. So you have to use technology a lot to try and challenge, you know, overcome that challenge. And I suppose one thing as well that can be a challenge is you have to have a shared vision for your partnership and for your project, you know, and if that doesn't happen, then the project won't be a success.
And in terms of managing the day-to-day partnership, are there any bits of advice or tips that you would have on how to maintain and manage a successful partnership?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really helpful is to establish a partnership agreement, so maybe a memo of understanding between the organisations involved, also to identify who is the key contact for the partnership within each organisation, who is going to actually drive this and take responsibility, you know, for the project or whatever you're working on together. Yeah, and also I suppose really importantly as well is creating space for learning, you know, as the partnership evolves, you know, and coming together, you know, to see kind of how things are going and how this is evolving. Like, perhaps the vision that you had for the partnership at the start is now changing, so how are you going to adapt and so forth, you know. And then also really importantly as well is to make sure that each of the partners in the project has, you know, the highest standard of accountability and transparency as well, you know, for your partnership, which is crucial.
And in terms of when or if conflict arises, how do you think it's best to deal with that?
I think it's best to deal with it as soon as possible, not to let it fester, and to come together and really identify like what is the root of this conflict, you know, and just to work together to overcome it. But I think if you've established a really good kind of memo of understanding at the start, you know, and are clear on the roles and responsibilities, then that can really help to diffuse any tension that may arise in the future.
For an organisation or a group that would like to do more partnership or collaboration working, what advice might you have for them in terms of seeking out or finding appropriate new partners?
Yeah, I suppose like, you know, it depends obviously on the project, you know, but I suppose it's using networks like IDEA can help you maybe identify, or the partners like IDEA organise a lot of events where different organisations are coming together. So actually you might find just by networking at those events that you may meet another organisation, you know, that kind of wants to do something similar to you. And also I suppose just, you know, really understanding what your values are and where you want to go, because I think you don't always have to stay within the sector. I think you can look beyond the sector, but you have to ensure maybe that the values of whoever you partner with are aligned to your values as an organisation, so you're not compromised.
So in terms of the crossroads that the world is in at the moment in relation to we still have many challenges with poverty, war, famine, and an increasing kind of division to some extent. How do you think the development education sector in particular can reach out and forge partnerships in areas other than perhaps the ones we've tended to focus on?
Yeah, I think you know, I think it's really important that we do start to look beyond ourselves, you know, because I do think that, you know, the development education sector sometimes operates in a bit of an echo chamber, you know. Even at events, often you see the same faces, you know, there's a number of us that have been involved for a long time in development education. So I think it is important to look beyond to other sectors, like, you know, even, I don't know, like recently I was at an event actually in the UK, and we had a journalist in who was from quite a right-wing paper, and he was really challenging us around, you know, why they create stories in a particular way and who that appeals to. And we have to understand and work with them, we have to work with them to understand, you know, why the way they spin a story is engaging people, you know, and maybe challenge that as well around critical media literacy. But if we just talk about it or do it amongst ourselves, we're not going to change anything. We have to look beyond ourselves.
Thank you.